Crime is out of control. Housing crisis. People can't afford to pay rent. People can't buy houses. RCSD, with $1 million in budget, we still rank at the bottom of the list for so many years. Rochester is one of the poorest cities in the country. 1 in 4 live in poverty. That's what broken looks like. That's what failure looks like. We have to accept before we can move on, before we can fix it. Now, I wasn't planning to run for any office until last November. But my tipping point was when I saw city doing tax foreclosure auction. City had put 2,000 houses on foreclosure. Senior citizens living on $1,100 of Social Security. So many of them. I met a lady living on $1,100 per month. City is saying, pay your taxes or we're going to sell your house off. Or a payment plan that she can't afford. That's not tax collection policy. That's cruelty. So here I am.
Okay, Mr. Sinha?
Here I am, running to fix the city. I have big vision and bold plans. We're going to shock the city out of this. Thank you.
And we're going to hear more about that tonight. Let's go to Mary Lupien now. And please also describe yourself for audience members who are blind or visually impaired and offer your opening statement.
I'm a white woman with red hair, wearing glasses, in my 40s, wearing a blue dress. I want to thank the host of this debate and everyone watching at home, including my babies at School 28. Love you guys. I'm Mary Lupien, and I've been serving this community for over 20 years as an activist, a public servant, a bilingual social emotional educator in the RCSD, and I'm a single mom raising my daughter on Parcells Avenue, where I've watched my neighbors get pushed out because of rising rents, and I've watched my students struggle with trauma and homelessness. And my own daughter is afraid to take the trash out to the curb because she's afraid of gunfire. I'm running for mayor because I know that these are problems in our power to solve. Rochester's in crisis, and Mayor Evans may be keeping the lights on, but that's not enough. We need a bold vision for a Rochester that's thriving because we invest in us. Now, I've already led on bold policy initiatives like Person in Crisis Team, Advanced Peace, and Good Cause Eviction Protections. But now we need the scale, the urgency, and the political will to meet this moment. For too long, we've been told to wait for new residents, businesses, outside investment to save us. We don't need saving. We need support. As mayor, I'll bring back and expand our guaranteed income program to stabilize more families. I'll increase housing affordable to us. And I'll scale our community responder program so that police can focus on the most serious crime and we get the right response at the right time. I know that we have everything we need to thrive in Rochester. We just need a leader with the courage to invest in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lupien. And Malik Evans next.
I'm Malik Evans, an African-American male wearing a red tie. Let me say it has been the honor of my life to serve as mayor for the last 3.5 years. We came in with unprecedented challenges. But when I came in with those challenges, I was also coming in as a son of Rochester, born and bred, who spent his life here. So everything that I looked through in terms of the lenses in our city was through the lenses of my sons that are here in the city of Rochester, and myself, who grew up in this neighborhood and who grew up in these neighborhoods and was raised by our community. We had lots of challenges that we had to overcome. Right at the end of COVID, while it was still over, it was not yet complete. And we know we came in with the highest level of homicides that we had ever seen in Rochester's history. Housing was completely frozen. But we took bold and immediate action in the beginning by launching the Office of Violence Prevention Services, where we launched the Peace Collective, expanded our gun-involved violence elimination program. And now, from the time we started up until now, we've seen a 53% reduction in shootings, a 47% reduction in homicides. And we don't celebrate any homicide, and we don't celebrate any shooting, but we do recognize progress, and we know that we still have a lot more work to do. My mother always said, Malik, we're not where we want to be. But thank God we are not where we were. So we have seen progress, and I want to help to continue to move that progress. Economic empowerment is at the center of everything that we have done in this administration, and it's why we launched the Office of Financial Empowerment, where we focused on youth, where this fall we'll be launching our first ever our savings account to make sure that every single kindergartner entering the city school district will have access to a savings account that they will have for all the 12 years of their lives. We focused our entrepreneurship efforts with our Prepare to Prosperous program, because we understand that if 1 in 3 small businesses in America creates at least one job, America could be at full employment. And that is what we have done in Rochester. And we look forward to continuing down this path of progress over the next 4 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our first question comes from Kiara Weaver of the Democrat and Chronicle. Shashi Sinha will respond first. Kiara?
I am a black woman in her 20s wearing glasses and a black sweater. As the Trump administration actively seeks to challenge and dismantle sanctuary city policies nationwide, what is your position on Rochester's current sanctuary city policy? Do you feel a need to change the policy? If so, how?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Look at me. If ICE came in this room, I am the target. This is personal. I have friends who are planning what happens if I get picked up, what happens to my kid, what happens to my wife, other way around. Fear has taken root in the community. It's very difficult. It's so personal. I have met a lady talking on phone, from Puerto Rico. She was born here. And she's planning to leave because she's scared that she might get picked up, a U.S. citizen. But this is where we are. And let's not pretend that we didn't know that it was coming. Trump had said exactly what he was going to do. And that's exactly what's happening. So it was very disheartening to see when the RPD incident happened. We had a knee-jerk reaction. And Mayor did a press conference, chastising the police officers, and we know the rest. Now we have a lawsuit in our hand. And so this was just reckless. And we, the immigrant community, is going to pay the price for this, not any of you. But at the same time, we have to think about how do we save federal funding. So it's a complicated issue. Do we stay sanctuary city? Yes, I'm fully committed to saving our community, our immigrant community. But there are very many different aspects to it. There are some symbolic and there are some real implications. So I'll have to figure out that how do we work this out? Because losing federal funding could be devastating for Rochester.
All right. Malik Evans next.
Yeah, let me be clear. First off, we believe that our sanctuary city policy is sound. The lawsuit that we have, and I'm named in it, the first time I never thought that I would have a lawsuit, United States of America versus Malik Evans as mayor in his professional capacity. We absolutely are committed to our policy. It has stood the test of time since 1986. The 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is clear. We're not violating the law. All we're saying is that we are not going to use our resources to participate in immigration enforcement. This survived the first Trump administration, and we believe that it will survive this next Trump administration. Now, being that this is on litigation, I'm not going to get into our litigation strategy and give it away. But I believe that we are on solid ground. And anyone that is a student of the Constitution, or even if you're not, look at the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, and it is clear. Those things that are not listed in the Constitution are left to the states and the localities, and we will defend this vigorously in court. We already have, and we're not going to be bullied, and we're not going to be punked. I come from a family of 6 other brothers and sisters, and we were taught how to stand up to bullies when we are placed up against the rope. And now more than ever, it is important for us to continue to collaborate to make sure that if there are threats to funding, that we not only deal with it from a legal standpoint, but also from a legislative standpoint and also from a community organizing standpoint. And we have already started with all 3 of those things. We knew this was coming. In February, we filed an amicus brief when we saw NIH funding that was going to be slashed here in the city of Rochester that would have decimated our economy. So when I say not only our way of life is under attack, it is also our economy that is also under attack. But we are on solid ground, and we will defend our policies and values to the hilt because we know we are on the right side of history.
All right, Mayor Lupien next.
I want everyone at home to hear this. We are going to protect our people. We will not turn our back on our immigrant population. It is incredibly important that we stand together. Trump is going to send his ICE, the fascists and white supremacists that he's recruiting to be in immigration and custom enforcement. And we cannot allow our city employees to participate in that action. And unfortunately, in March, when we had that incident when ICE arrested a family on their way home from work, our police assisted them in arresting this family. And our mayor did not act. He gave officers 2 hours of training and they were back on the street. I want sanctuary city policy that clearly spells out what are the disciplinary actions that will happen should this policy be violated again. So I will uphold and enforce and strengthen this policy, but it's also personal to me. My daughter is half Guatemalan, and she has many family members who are here without papers because they are just seeking a better life. And I haven't heard from them since Trump got into office. It's an incredibly scary world, but that is out there right now. But we stand together and we will fight for everyone in the city.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and go to Gino Finelli. I will say we're going to have to try to keep it moving. I know that we're going to try to take as much time as we need for every answer, but to the candidates, do your best on that first minute, and I'll try to guide you. Gino Finelli from WXXI News, next.
I am a white man in my early 30s with a beard and glasses. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, fair market rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the Rochester metropolitan area has risen 48% between 2020 and 2025, from $775 to $1,149. How would you, as mayor, ensure every Rochesterian has access to good quality, affordable housing?
I think one of the most important things you hear people say, drill, baby, drill. You have to build as many affordable housing units as you can. Rochester has been a leader in this market in terms of building of affordable housing in the state, recognized by the New York State Community Homes and Renewal. There's a great video that just came out that features Rochester and our work around affordable housing. We still have a long way to go, but just in 3.5 years, we've built close to 4,000 units, and you have to have a variety of housing. Market rate, affordable, extremely affordable, as well as single-family homes for people who are looking to build. It's why our work that we're doing to change our zoning code is also extremely important. We have to make sure that we build as many units as possible. But we also have to make sure that we address our poverty rate in Rochester. Of the top 5 poorest zip codes in New York State, 3 of them are in the city of Rochester. We've seen improvement in our poverty rate. We're not jumping up and down and doing a dance, but we've seen it drop by 10 percentage points. We have to make sure that people also can be able to afford rent. And this is why my focus on workforce development is so very, very important, because people need to earn the incomes to be able to afford the rent that is being asked of them in those various apartments. And that's why connecting with workforce development, making sure that people are matched to the jobs with skills, particularly of the future, is extremely, extremely important.
All right, Mayor Lupien.
Our housing situation is very dire, and City Hall has been slow to act. We've known for years that there was a housing crisis, and it's just in the last few years that we've really started to see more investment in housing. And the Mayor's By the Block program, building houses for $500,000, is not going to scale. We need to figure out how to do more with less if we're considering potentially losing federal funding. I'm talking about building housing that is much cheaper, like starter homes or modular homes, but also focusing on rehabbing our existing properties. We have so many vacant structures that could be rehabbed and be housing for our people. We can also implement policy like tenant opportunity to purchase, where tenants get the right of first refusal should their landlord sell their property, and couple that with our housing trust fund to give technical and financial assistance to tenants, then we're creating a pathway to home ownership. And we need to streamline building, because we have many local small-scale developers that find it incredibly hard to deal with the city for building. One person that I know, took him 3 years to just break ground on his townhouses. And this is something I see in my neighborhood. Just last week, one of my neighbors came to me crying, saying, "Mary, please help me find somewhere affordable to live." And I don't know what to tell her. We need to act, and we need to act to scale to meet this crisis.
And Shashi Sinha next.
Rochester has become a rental city. 62% of our residents live in rental units, and we are going in the wrong direction. Everybody talks about building more rental unit. We know that when rental population goes this high, we get into a lot of trouble. City goes in decline. We need to build more houses for ownership. I'm proposing building 4,000 housing units for ownership on 3,000 vacant lots that city has. And I will do that in 4 years. Build and sold at cost, all around $100,000. And I'm glad to see Mary coming around and recognizing by the block program how bad that is. We are spending $500,000 to build one single unit, $500,000, and selling it for $100,000. That's a disaster. That's not a sustainable plan. It's financial disaster at best, I can say. On my first day, I will stop it. But we need to build more housing units for ownership. I'm going to move 5% of population, think about this, from rental to owning something. That is how you build generational wealth.
Okay, time. Mr. Evans, do you want to respond? They both talked about buy the block.
Yeah, I want to absolutely respond to buy the block. For Tia or Tina or Sandra that are in those buy the block homes, we will never apologize for building on our Buy the Block program. Our Buy the Block program is only one tool in a toolbox. Those were funds that we were able to use from the American Rescue Plan Act to make sure that people who were in red line neighborhoods, and my two colleagues up here may not be as familiar with that, but those African American and Latinos who were in neighborhoods where a red line was drawn in those neighborhoods that said, hazard, you are not allowed to be there. We use that program to make sure that people who never would have been able to have access to housing got that access. Now, we were able to use American Rescue Plan Acts to bring that number down for $120,000 and from $120,000 to up to $130,000 to make it affordable for those people to be able to be in those homes. So we will never apologize for that equity program that we put forth. But that is just one piece of the overall puzzle when we look at housing. And we also targeted, by the way, our Buy the Block program to be built where other homes were already being built, such as the Edna Craven Estates or the homes that are going to be built around Bull's Head. So it was a very targeted program. It is not a program that is a magic wand that is going to solve our housing problems. Housing is extremely complex, and you have to make sure that you have a menu of things that you are going to do. Okay. So as we continue to go into the next phase of home building, we're going to work more with the private sector to encourage them to build more single-family homes. But I want to be clear. Buy the Block program was used to right a wrong that lived in this community for far too long, and it is not an end-all, be-all. It is just one tool in our overall housing toolbox.
All right, to be fair, both the other candidates will have time here. Go ahead, Ms. Lupien.
It is a very expensive tool. The American Rescue Plan Act funding that was very flexible and could have been used to directly aid people, $13 million of it was used to build just 37 homes. And when we're not intentional about building like focused investment was, we can cause displacement of the very people that we are trying to bring equity into their neighborhood. Because when you improve neighborhoods and you build new housing, it increases the housing costs. It's just a function of how that works. And without policies like tenant opportunity to purchase, we could be pushing out people in the very neighborhood we want to save. And Shashi, Sinha, you didn't even know who I was 5 months ago, so I can't expect you to have watched the city council meetings where I have been railing against this program from the very beginning. But this is not the way that we scale the housing crisis. We need to be focusing on building housing, yes, but much cheaper.
All right, and Mr. Sinha.
I'm going to be quick. Mayor Evans tried to wrap this around equity and redlining. No matter how you spin it, financial failure is financial failure. It's waste of taxpayers' money. And that's all I have to say.
Our next question comes from Matt Malloy of 13 WHAM News. Mary Lupien will respond first.
Hi, I am a white man in my 40s with dark hair and a Navy suit. A recent ruling set strict limits on the work of Rochester's Police Accountability Board, blocking it from holding hearings, compelling officer testimony, and publishing reports with disciplinary recommendations. Now, an appeal is underway, but if that ruling stands, what do you see as the future of the PAB, and would you continue to fund it with taxpayer dollars if it's unable to do that work?
I have been a supporter of the Police Accountability Board from the beginning, and yes, it has had its bumps. City Council has never created an agency before, but it's really hit its stride. And I'm really disappointed that the Evans administration prevents them from getting the evidence they needed to solve these cases, even being sued by the NYCLU for trying to hold back disciplinary records that were state mandated to be released to the public. That said, we are appealing this decision, and yes, should it come out that the Police Accountability Board can't hear cases, then yes, the staff that would have been supporting that function would have to be let go and the budget would be decreased. But I do want to acknowledge that as mayor, the Police Accountability Board would not be under my control, and that's by design. It's under City Council to have that separation, and so it would be up to them to do with it what they will. But even should it go away, or at least not be able to investigate individual officers, I just want to say it can still investigate policies and practices and procedures. But it'll be a sad day. But there's still the ability of City Council to do investigations, and ultimately the Police Accountability Board is to try to force the mayor and the police chief to do the right thing. And as mayor, I would absolutely hold officers accountable.
All right, Mr. Sinha.
Yeah. With safety, I want Rochester to feel safe. At the same time, I want police to be accountable. So police has a difficult job. But at the same time, we have seen so many of these incidents over the years that are appalling and just not acceptable. So police need to be accountable. In terms of PAB, with the current ruling, it has become clear that they don't have any power left to any enforcement or even do investigation. I come from business world. When something doesn't work, you stop it and do something that actually works. So we will wait and see over the next few months what happens. But it becomes clear that PAB will not be able to do anything. It's about time we do something different. Under my administration, we will have something that'll be audit of not only police, but every other department. Bring more transparency, have more audit capability of all the departments, including RCSD, by the way. So, no, we want to hold police accountable. If it's not PAB, then it needs to be something else.
Okay. And Malik Evans.
Yeah, I think that we'd have to wait to see what the ruling says. But I'll say, the Police Accountability Board got off to a rocky start. I was on City Council when we voted to establish this board. I've tried to do my best in terms of helping them grow, and I think they have. I think they finally hit their stride. I helped recruit some of the current board members that are there, as well as the current executive director that's there. We assigned a captain from the police department to be a liaison there, and the chief now meets weekly with the current executive director, because you have to have some type of accountability. The question will be, what would it be? What it would look like if, in fact, that lawsuit is not successful, the appeal that we currently have right now. But you have to have something. What would be a similar to what we had before in terms of it being a review board. But it still will be some type of role. It may not be the size that it is right now, but there's still room for policy, procedure, as well as still advising the chief, as well as City Council and the mayor on ways in which we can improve. You have to have, before it was the Civilian Review Board, you have to have some type of third-party arbiter in dealing with a lot of these issues. And it might be more of an advisory role. I think the jury, obviously, no pun intended, is still out on that, but I don't think that it will go away. The question is what form it will take going forward.
Okay. Our next question comes from Cheryl McKeever of WDKX. Shashi Sinha will respond first. Cheryl.
I am a black woman, an incredible black woman dressed in pink. Do you think our main street in downtown is healthy and successful? How would you develop, design, or resurrect downtown Rochester? 60
seconds, Mr. Sinha.
Thanks for the question. Businesses are leaving downtown. I have met so many businesses. They're scared of break-ins and crime. And what is happening right now, focus on downtown, building apartments. I don't know where that's going to get us. I think we need a vibrant economy. We need to bring people into downtown. That includes entertainment, that includes businesses. Some of the programs that is happening currently right now, is that the best use of money in that area? I'm not fully convinced. I believe focus of those investments should be in people. As I earlier said, we are one of the poorest city in the country. 1 in 4 live in poverty. My focus will be first focusing on those people, giving them housing, giving them education, and giving them safety. That would be my priority. Of course, growth comes with it. There are two sides of it. We are talking about spend on these safety nets for our residents, but we need to bring more money from outside, more businesses. And I have talked about bringing growth through tourism. So everything goes hand in hand. But my focus would be on people and giving that social security safety net.
All right, Malik Evans next.
Rochester deserves a great downtown. Any of us that lived here for more than 5 years understand what downtown used to be. But one of the things that we're doing downtown that I think is absolutely critical is we continue to have people live downtown. Downtown is now one of our fastest growing neighborhoods. And by next year, there'll probably be close to 20,000 people living downtown. That gives us a base of people that live there that will need those services. One of my most successful things that I was able to get done downtown is the corner of Main and Clinton. That was the crossroads of our city, if you remember, back in the day, and through our downtown revitalization initiative, because of our partnership with New York State, which is absolutely critical, as well as Monroe County, we were able to get dollars to make sure that we resurrect that corner. And why is that important? We need downtown to be a destination. We need folks to continue to go down there for the Jazz Fest and the Fringe Fest and all those other events that we have, the Strong Museum, the people that live there. That's important because now more of our city budget comes from sales tax. It used to be property tax. It now comes from sales tax. So in order to do that, you have to make sure you create a vibrant economy. And part of that vibrant economy has to be downtown. But we have to make sure, and I've tried very hard to make sure that we don't do it at the expense of other places. And a lot of the resources that we've been able to get from downtown have been because of relationships that we built at the state, county, and federal level. And that is going to be extremely important for us to be able to make sure that we continue building a vibrant downtown. But you can't have a donut hole in the middle of your city. You have to have a strong, vibrant downtown, and a lot of it starts with people living there, and we're seeing that now.
And now Mary Lupien.
Focusing on downtown as our sole economic strategy is backwards. People are moving out of downtown and businesses are moving out of downtown because they don't feel safe, because the problems that exist in our city with housing and homelessness and substance use are on the street in full display. And I opposed the Business Improvement District because it would have brought security downtown and wouldn't have felt safe for the people that live here. And the way that we handle downtown is we have to fix the problems of this city. We can't sweep it under the rug. So if there's people that don't have homes, let's get them homes. If we have people that are using substances, let's build an overdose prevention center. There are things that we can do to help the people of this community before the buildings. And, $200 million on this aqueduct project to take the top off of Broad Street Bridge. I don't think the community knows that that's how we're spending their money, when we could just as easily block it off to traffic. People for Public Spaces has a wonderful placemaking plan where they activate different spaces and it brings vibrancy, and people on the street bring safety. There are much cheaper ways to activate downtown, and we need to be focusing on what's going on with our people.
All right, since this is a Voice of the Voter debate, we asked you, the voters, to submit questions. Here is one of them, and Malik Evans will respond first. This comes from Ryan in Rochester. He asked the following: there are a multitude of beliefs, opinions, and personalities in our city. How do you work with people you don't get along with so that we can continue to progress as a city? Malik Evans, your response.
I think that, number one, you have to look at the issue. Because it can't be about the person. It has to be about the issue. And if the issue is important, you focus and you rally around the issue. One of the things that I've done that has been extremely important is that I've worked to expand City Hall in terms of getting the resources. We have the best relationship with the county since Moore and Ryan. And that has been critical for us because imagine if I didn't get along with the county executive or because he said something I didn't like, or our state delegation, which has delivered for us time and time again. My first day in office was on a Monday, and the first people I met with were the governor, our county executive, and community leaders, because I knew that the challenges coming out of COVID were so immense and so daunting and so big that no person could do it by itself. People often hear me say it's we, not me, or it's about all of us. And the reason why I say that is because every single thing that I've done in this office has not been just because of me. It's been because of the larger community and people that have come in. We rely on the kindness of strangers. It was just mentioned this $200 million for the aqueduct. The city can't afford that. Those are dollars that are coming from the state. The state is giving us those dollars. Those are capital dollars. Our budget is only about between $500 and $600 million, depending on the day. So the city of Rochester cannot solve all these problems alone. So you have to get the community in order to be able to help you do these things. And we're doing that with our neighborhood and neighbors in action program. 46 community organizations that are coming in to be able to do that. Or our Peace Collective, almost 50 organizations, community members that are helping us to do that. So you have to work with people in order to help lift our city. I can't do it alone. But together we can do so much. And that's what I've tried to model over the last 3.5 years.
Mary Lupien, your response.
I will work with absolutely anyone who's headed towards justice. And as evidenced by the 3 years that I worked with former Councilmember Pio on a project to create a community response team to expand our alternate response model, which is the basis for the action team that the mayor recently announced. Many of you out there may remember Councilmember Pio and I had a very public conflict, but we could meet in the middle. And I was able to do the person in crisis team and advanced peace under former Mayor Lovely Warren, who again publicly disagreed. But disagreement isn't disrespect, it's democracy. And we have to be able to disagree and challenge each other, because when we hear diverse viewpoints, then we can come together and create the best policy. And it's unfortunate that in City Hall, so often, personalities get in the way.
Mr. Sinha.
As I said, I'm an immigrant. I have lived in different cultures. I lived in India. I grew up in India. I lived in France, and for the last 28 years, I've lived in U.S. So I have worked with all different cultures, all different opinions. And that's an asset. That's how I bring people together. You learn things. And I'm bringing ideas from outside, and you'll hear probably more from me about that. So I have, from different cultures and opinions, it's really good. That this is how we grow. Now, coming back to how do you work together in a business setting or in government setting, I work for a corporate world, and I get to manage large budget where different asks come, often competing priorities and different personalities. But I'm able to bring them together because it is about issues. You set the target that what exactly we are trying to solve. And if you focus on that, and if you listen to everybody, eventually you get to bring everybody together and agree on something that is good for everybody else. And in our case, our city. So I'll be very open, or actually, I'll be listening to everybody.
Thank you.
Not only people in the city hall and council, but actually residents of our city.
Thank you very much. Well, this is the Voice of the Voter debate with the candidates on the Democratic primary ballot for Rochester Mayor. I'm Evan Dawson. Voice of the Voter is a partnership among the Democrat and Chronicle, 13 WHAM News, WDKX, and WXXI. You can join the conversation on WXXI News Facebook and YouTube live streams. Our next question comes from Kiara Weaver with the Democrat and Chronicle. Mary Lupien will respond first.
What is your stance on encampment sweeps? Do you support their removal? Or do you think their removal exasperates the issues of homelessness?
As mayor, I would end homeless encampment sweeps day one. You cannot solve homelessness by taking people's tents away. You need to provide them homes, and I believe in a housing first model. And it broke my heart when 5 days before Christmas, on the eve of the coldest day of the year, Mayor Evans dismantled a homeless encampment that just so happened to be on the way to Rock Holiday Village. So as people coming in from other parts of the city and the county, they might see a homeless encampment on their way to the busiest weekend. And we cannot sweep our problems under the rug. Homeless encampment sweeps, they can kill people because they're a community and outreach workers know where they are, and they're many times they are addicted to substances and they use in community. And so if someone has an overdose, they're there to revive them. And unfortunately, due to the homeless encampment sweep and the 490 farmers, a man who was well known in the community named Tex died of a drug overdose.
Mr. Sinha.
Yeah, it was February when I was driving with one of my friends, and we saw this tent on snow on the side of the street. And my friend went there and talked with that person that we have a shelter, we can take you there. It was not, it was a private home, and the person said no. And the reason was that he was afraid of shelter, people beating him up in different places, and other reason was that he couldn't do drugs because he was addicted. And solving street homelessness, in my mind, should be a very doable thing. You can't just take the tents away and leave that person to die in cold or heat. I was talking with Sister Grace a few months ago, and she said, if we have only 200 beds, we can solve street homelessness on average. Now, so my goal would be to build, either coordinate with 50-plus organizations that are trying to solve this, or build something that addresses street homelessness. It's very simple, and of course, it's a very complicated issue. You have drug issue related to it, you have mental health.
It's time.
So we have to incorporate all those things and maybe build a couple of different shelters and different levels of it so that you transition out people when they feel good and when they're treated for different issues that they have. But this is a very solvable issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans.
I want functional zero homelessness in our community, and I believe that we can get there. I want to be clear. I asked someone the other day, just because I wanted to make sure, I said, how many people have we arrested for being on the street? The answer is zero. Anytime we work to move people into housing, we don't take anything away. This is very personal for me. Those folks that knew my dad knew that he spent 30 years going under bridges getting people into housing. I know how this works. You have to build relationships, number one, and you have to do it consistently and regularly. But if there's not a place for a person to wash their hands or go to the bathroom, that is not a way to live. And we have to be clear that we have a path for people to be able to get there. But I want to be clear that we are not arresting people. This is not a problem that you can arrest your way out of. We have to continue to work with our PIC team as well as our FIT team. We have homeless outreach sessions twice a week that City Hall works with, and others do many more than that. But we have not arrested anyone on the street for being homeless. You can't arrest someone for being in poverty or having a substance abuse disorder. We have been very clear that we want to make sure that we continue a housing first model to work to get people into housing, but people should not be on the street. And anytime we work to get people housed, we work with other organizations, including our PIC and FIT team and Monroe County, who has the main role as it relates to homelessness. The city is a partner in that and making sure that people are off the streets. But no one should be on the streets in the city of Rochester. It is not a way to live, and we need to do everything we can to make sure we get people into housing, but more importantly, into mental health treatment as well as substance abuse treatment, because the three of those things go together.
Ms. Lupien wanted to follow up. Go ahead.
Yes. The incident 5 days before Christmas was a surprise. They did not alert the outreach workers, which had been working with these people for 2 months to try to get them into housing, and none of the people accepted shelter because there are real barriers to shelter. So they were made more homeless than they already were on the coldest day of the year, and they were still outside. And Father Tracy Center gave the city a solution. They had a warehouse that was ready to be an indoor encampment with showers and bathrooms and on-site services, and they asked the city for $300,000 in July, and we did nothing. The administration did nothing. And so when it came to 5 days before Christmas, there was nowhere for these people to go. Because of the Community Resource Collaborative scandal, many of our organizations that were serving these populations were harmed. And Reach Advocacy and MC Collaborative went from 9 shelters to 1. And they were doing the work of individual units so that people weren't in congregate settings where they would have to be afraid of being hurt or having their belongings stolen. And we didn't step in. And we have to step in, whether it's our job or not. We have to step in to make sure that our people are safe and that there are enough beds for people to go to.
Mr. Evans, do you want to respond to that?
No, I would just say that I think it's critical that we not use our homeless population as props, as political tools, and that we actually work to solve the problem. We've been great in this community about problem identification. But when it comes to solving the problem, sometimes they are short on supply. We have made it clear that we have worked with a wide variety of organizations to make sure that we work to get people on the street. And some of the organizations that are supposed to be doing the job, they need more assistance, particularly around the cultural competency part of solving the homelessness epidemic. But encampments are a very difficult situation. It's why we continue to support Peace Village. I hope that we will be able to find an organization that can be able to run that organization, which is the only sanctioned outside place that we have homeless encampments. But we have to put a stake in the ground and says that no one should be on the streets sleeping on a tent. It is not humane. It is not right. I was raised that way. I watched my father move these people off of the streets, and there is a way to do it. And we need to be clear, and I think it's something that we all can agree on, that no one should be sleeping on the streets, and we need to work overtime to make sure that we do everything to get people off the streets into a safe, warm setting, particularly in the wintertime.
Mayor Evans, will you commit to ending the sweeps?
We don't do homeless sweeps.
That's not accurate.
In the city of Rochester.
That's
we never
not accurate.
Have. Anytime we work, we make sure that we are putting people, connecting them with resources. And Evan, I'll follow your rules. I won't interrupt or speak out of turn.
I want to be fair, Mr. Sinha, if you want to take a little time as well.
This is our government. It's been happening for so many years. It's a very manageable problem, but these guys keep fighting, can't solve it. They don't know how to do it. It's about to make changes. That's all I have to say.
Our next question comes from Gino Finelli of WXXI News. Shashi Sinha will respond first. Gino.
The Guaranteed Basic Income has ended as a pilot program in Rochester. Would you support creating a permanent program? And if so, what would that program look like and how would it be funded?
It's a great idea. How are we going to fund it? We can't start with this, because it's a luxury, in my mind, when economies are thriving. When you're struggling, if you don't have money, you can't really do UBI or guaranteed income. Because if you're talking about $50 or $100, what meaningful impact that might have on a family? And at the same time, you're draining the city budget or some budget. My approach is different. We got to get to the root cause of the problem. If people are struggling, let's find them jobs. Let's find them career. Let's find them a good life. It starts with education. It starts with housing. And we want to bring business in here and grow, not start with the handout economy. So no, it's a great idea in theory, but it would not work here.
Okay, Mr. Evans?
I think, and we're going to get the final report, which we'll release to the community soon, on our pilot Guaranteed Basic Income program. We've put it in our 22, 23, and 24 budgets. We used ARPA funding. That ARPA funding is now gone, but stay tuned in July with the University of Notre Dame Financial Lab. We'll be presenting the final findings of the GBI program. I think it will show that it worked. During COVID, we made sure that the childhood tax credit was passed nationwide. It cut childhood poverty in America almost in half. When it went away, it almost went back up. We have the opportunity to extend a program similar to this. As you know, I advocated for it, and we received in last year's state budget $25 million for poverty reduction, and this year another $25 million in poverty reduction. And soon you will hear of another one of our pilot programs in consultation with Monroe County. It will be a direct cash assistance program similar to the Guaranteed Basic Income program that will provide dollars to a control group in 2 of our most poorest zip codes in the city. The issue is always how do you get the dollars to be able to do that? And a lot of places that have been successful for this, and I know this from my work with Mayors for Guaranteed Income, is there has been strong private-public partnerships, and I think that is what we will have to do if we decide that we want to extend this program. But I look forward to releasing this report to the community in the next month on our Guaranteed Basic Income Program. And it was great running the pilot for the first time, where we had a planning year in 2022 and launching the program in 23 and 24.
And Mary Lupien.
Guaranteed Basic Income is a core part of my platform because it works. All across the country and in our own city, Guaranteed Basic Income programs show that when you give a family an expected amount of money every month, they use it to pay their bills, to pay rent, to buy transportation to get to work, to get better jobs, and to get better apartments. So why not scale it, right? There's no mystery of whether or not it works. And what really boggles my mind is that no one asks, Mayor, where are you going to get $200 million to take off the top of Broad Street Bridge? I want to invest in our people. Take $33 million that the city asked the state for to build 75 homes over 3 years. Taking that amount of money, that same $33 million, we could give every family in the RCSD $125 per child per month for a year. We know that works. No one has been able to show me how 75 houses makes a dent in poverty. We need to scale this program, and we can get the money from a variety of sources. Believe me, I can show you the waste in our budget. A local developer told me once about the Buy the Block program. I think it would be a better use of funds to sprinkle $1 million from the sky than to build 2 houses with it. We can find the money. We have to find the money, and we can partner with other nonprofits. We can partner with philanthropists, but this needs to be a core part of our city plan, and we can't just offload it to philanthropy. Our Guaranteed Basic Income pilot was ended. It was not renewed, and there are no plans to work with the Black Community Fund that was spent all of that work trying to figure out all the waivers and get the system set up to administer that program. Yes, we might be using anti-poverty funds from the county, but that's not a commitment at the city level.
Mr. Sinha's got his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we keep hearing about all these pilots, they work. Sure, if you have the money, then it will work. But how are we going to pay for the long term? I mean, nobody seems to have an answer to this. And we are struggling for so many different things. So we do not want to make a dependent economy, in my mind. We want people to be independent. We want to help them grow. We want to have them job. And I just do not agree that, I mean, idea is great if you can afford it, but at this point, the city just cannot afford it. There's no plan.
You mean how can we sustain this in the budget year over year over year? That's the objection you're raising?
Yeah, we cannot sustain it.
Okay. Just briefly, I'll ask Mr. Evans and Ms. Lupien. Mr. Evans, can this be sustained year to year and not paid for with one-offs?
Well, I think that's the challenge. You have to make sure you sustain it. I just closed a $90 million budget gap, and I think when people mention taking the roof off of Main Street or whatever that is, those are funds that are coming from the state that are designated for capital. There's different pots of money that you get from the government, and if we don't get money for capital, it'll go to Buffalo, it'll go to Syracuse, it'll go to Albany, it'll go to somewhere else. I will always make sure that we advocate and get capital dollars, get any investment I can in Rochester, because we need to be able to make sure that we get parity. We get $35 million less in state aid than our peer cities. So any way in which we can get dollars, we need to try to be able to get it in here in this city.
Okay.
Because we have been shortchanged for far too long. But I think we need to make sure that we continue to advocate for our city at the highest level, and that's what I've been doing over the last 3.5 years, and that's what I will continue to do over the next over the next 4 years.
Mr. Sinha is saying year to year, this would be very difficult to sustain and pay for an expanded GBA.
I don't agree. I think that the money goes very far when you give it directly to people and it's not passed down through trickle-down economic models. The mayor talks about the top of the Broad Street Bridge, which is the Aqueduct Reimagined project that your administration made a sweetheart deal with Constellation Brands. That was money that we asked the state for, and we could ask differently. And We invested $27 million into the convention center and the Blue Cross Arena of COVID recovery money that was flexible and meant to be used for our people to recover. No one thinks that the convention center will help our people. And that was money that could have been used for a guaranteed basic income program and wasn't.
All right, our next question comes from Matt Malloy of 13 WHAM News. Malik Evans will respond first. Matt.
One of the most pressing issues for Rochesterians is the cost of living, whether we're talking about housing, food, childcare, or basic necessities. What role do you believe city government can play in making those things more affordable for those who are struggling to make ends meet?
I think city government plays a role. I mean, many of this is the macroeconomic environment, the things that happen in other places that affect our city. For example, I will tell you that one of the things that I've been doing is pushing back on the tariffs that are coming in from Donald Trump is going to cost families in the city of Rochester almost $2,000 more a year. And it's why myself and a group of mayors from both the U.S. and Canada stood up and said, we don't want you to be able to do this because it is already expensive, right? It's already expensive to be able to do those things. In terms of housing, we need to build as much, not only affordable housing, market rate housing, and single-family homes, but we also have to make sure that we have housing where people aren't paying more than 30% of their income. If someone is paying more than 30% of their income, it makes it very hard for them to be able to afford those other things. And we want people, if you watch our budget hearing today, we want people to be able to afford other things because more than half of our budget is almost dependent on sales tax now, so that's extremely important. But we also can help in terms of making sure that people get connected with jobs. And this is why the Office of Financial Empowerment and our workforce development programs are so very critical in our community. We have to make sure that people have the skills to be able to take the jobs to the 21st century. It's why one of our workforce programs that we have that I'm very proud of partners with the healthcare industry, Local 1199, SCIU, to make sure that people can get jobs in phlebotomy and as lab techs to make sure that they can move into the middle class and join that organization. So the city plays a role, but we also have to make sure we partner with other levels of government to help bring down the cost of living and the cost of goods. And by the way, we were told that the cost of goods would be going down immediately, and that still has not helped. Inflation is still elevated, and the cost of goods have not gone down to a sustainable level yet in this country, and of course here in Rochester.
Ms. Lupien.
Guaranteed basic income is definitely one way the city could help people make ends meet. But there's lots of different things that other cities are piloting, like nonprofit grocery stores and community pharmacies and even laundromats, where the goal isn't to make a profit, it's to provide jobs and a service to the community. Another big way that we could help our people is to explore a public utility study to understand if we can do an RG&E buyout so that this public utility, which would be run by a community board whose sole mission is to reduce rates and provide better service and invest in our infrastructure. I've been a vocal advocate of the Housing Access Voucher Program at the state level so that we can have more vouchers for people to access housing. And we do need to invest in our people and train them and make sure that they have the skills for the jobs that are already here and for the jobs that are coming, because jobs go where we have a trained workforce.
Mr. Sinha.
Cost of living going up. There's not much city can do. Very limited scope that city plays into it. Cost of food, cost of clothing, cost of housing. City doesn't control it. So we have to change the way we think about how we survive. How do we deal with all the costs going up? One way to do it, or the only way to do it in my mind, is increase income. We have a lot of unemployment and underemployment in the city. One of the programs that I talked about, building 4,000 housing unit, that would help our community. I'm not going to give it to developer. This is going to be a city-run program. And a lot of people and it's going to go to those jobs. I'm going to hire from within. This includes people who are underemployed or not employed, or even people who have gotten into crime. This will be a way out for them. To learn something, assembly, I'm talking about modular panelized home, they can learn very quickly, and they will have good paying job. For our residents, you got to make more money to pay for the goods that you have to buy. So that's the way I'll go about it.
Okay. Next question comes from Cheryl McKeever of WDKX. Mary Lupien is going to respond first. Cheryl.
Okay. What are your plans to involve residents in decision-making process, or how have you involved residents in the decision-making process for Rochester?
I just want to add to the last question that I have been involved in talks on what it would look to raise the minimum wage locally. And I think that that could also be a solution to helping people meet their needs. And in terms of involving people in the process, I love participatory budgeting. And currently the city does kind of like a fake exercise where they have people put money in different pots. But I want to do it for real. I want to set aside a pot of money and let the community decide how it would spend it. And most recently, City Council gave each district council person $100,000 to spend in their district. And I had a robust outreach to all of the neighborhood groups and people that I knew that were doing good work, and they submitted their proposals to me, and we ended up picking the 4 that were based in my district but had citywide reach. But that was a really exciting opportunity, and I hope that we can do more of that.
Mr. Sinha?
Yeah, we are not involving our residents much in decision making at all. There are neighborhood communities. I was in one of them a couple of days ago, and nobody from the city was there, even though they were invited. So I will change the script. My administration will be very transparent and very involved with residents. I will have monthly meetings, including I will encourage City Council to be part of that whole town halls every month. I will create a technology portal where people can submit their ideas and concerns. And so we will involve people directly in decision making. If we have a plan, let's communicate it. Let's get direct feedback from residents, not just decide and move forward, because that seems to happen a lot.
Mr. Evans.
I have my Mayor on the Block, in which I do every month. I just finished my 41st Mayor on the Block yesterday. That involves community residents. We have our Rochester Community University. We have a cohort that graduates from that, I believe, next week. Our NIA program, Neighborhoods in Action programs. We just launched our first cohort. That's all made up of neighborhood organizations and regular, everyday community folks from neighborhoods. 47 organizations. They got to decide what projects they wanted to do in their community, and we just launched that. We do our telephone town hall at least twice a year, and also and many of the commissions and boards that I appointed. Our Vision Zero Task Force has community representatives on that. Our Housing Quality Task Force had community representatives on that. Our Cannabis Preparation Commission had community representatives on that. That's how I got my start in public service, was being involved and being invited into the room. I go back, I was on the Sector 4 Planning Committee during Neighbors Building Neighbors when I was 14 years old. I have also involved young people. I have the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, which I helped start when I was a teenager, that is still going on in the city of Rochester. And we have evidence of involvement in how it could change things. I go to PLTI, our Parent Leadership Training Institute, regularly. And all of these people have helped imprint city government. And everything I've done over the last 3.5 years, I've gone to the community, and that is where a lot of the ideas come from. And that's why I say it's we, not me. You can't do this by yourself if you don't involve the community.
And Ms. Lupien's got her hand up. Go ahead.
Well, just first shout out to PLTI. I'm a PLTI grad. City Hall has to be accessible to the people. Recently, we have had all kinds of, plexiglass and signs that say, don't go here, don't go there, you're not allowed here, security desks. And I understand that we're in a different time. But the metal detectors and that kind of greeting when you get in City Hall, you don't feel like it's your house. And the mayor really needs to be accessible to the people in this community, to be out in the community and on the ground with our people. My neighbors know where to find me. My students are always giving me ideas of what we could do differently in this community. And it is important to really be accessible and hold town hall meetings. And also want to touch on the use of technology. I have led an initiative on City Council for a legislative management system. Right now, our legislative management system is Microsoft Word and a PDF that is an image that you can't search. So trying to be involved in the legislative process means that you have to scroll through hundreds of pages of documents every month. And so this legislation management system, which should be going live in the next couple of months, will have each piece of legislation separated out. You can see the flow of it through committees. You can search. You can even let us know how you feel about the legislation. And that's the kind of accessibility and the way we can use technology to increase participation in government.
Briefly, Mr. Evans, does City Hall need to be warmer and more welcoming?
I think City Hall is extremely warmer and welcoming. It's sad that our world changed, and our City Hall is no different than Buffalo, Syracuse, the county office building, and other places. I can tell you, I'm probably the mayor that has probably gotten the most threats than any mayor, but also some of our employees. But our City Hall is no different than city halls across the country, and I don't make the security decisions in terms of what they are. They're based upon threat assessments and the unfortunately sometimes crazy world that we live in. And I can tell you, after we've been in the news nationally, the threats have been even more pronounced and more concerning. But it's not important for the public to worry about that. We know what we are getting ourselves into when we get into these jobs. But I'll tell you, it's important that as public servants, that you know that you're going to make it home to your family at night on a regular basis. But I think also it's important to take City Hall to the people. So as mayor, and my schedule is foilable, so and many people have foiled it, I average about 20 to 25 community events on a regular basis. So the mayor cannot be in City Hall on the third floor. The mayor has to be out amongst the people in order to get the information that you need.
To be fair, anything you want to add, Mr. Sinha?
No, I'm good.
Okay. This is the voice of the voter debate. We asked you, the voters, to submit questions, and one of them is going to be right here. Shashi Sinha will respond first. This comes from Chris in Rochester. He asked the following. Can the candidates state for the record whether they want more or fewer police officers on the force and on the street? Shashi Sinha first.
Crime is a huge issue. People don't feel safe. Over the last few months, I have knocked more than 2,000 doors by now. And the number one issue people talk about is people don't feel safe. Everybody has that story that either their car is broken into or they heard about gunshot around the block. So people don't feel safe. So I'll be going hard on crime. If that means including more police officers, then yes. But I'll do more than that. I will use allocation of police officers towards violent crime. I'm going to put police officers where we know the crime is happening. I'm going to put blue light cameras there as well to make sure that we have more security. We know that when those things happen, crime in those areas goes down. Also, I'm talking about community policing. We need to bring it back, where the cops know their neighbors are walking there or see the kids and say, hey, why you're not in school? We should be doing that. But in the end, if it means that, at least in the short term, if we need to get more police, then yes.
Okay, Mr. Evans.
I think right now we're about 100 police officers short, and we're working hard to recruit them. We need to fill the ranks of what we have. But I think also when it comes to crime, and one of the reasons why you've seen a reduction in gun violence, which is what we really zeroed in on like a laser, is because of our prevention, intervention, and suppression. Our gun-involved violence elimination program that targets individuals that carry guns. Last year, we had a record number of illegal firearms that we've taken off the street. But it's also about opportunity. I always say that if a kid has an opportunity, a job, they'll be so tired from playing sports and working that they won't have time to get in trouble. So it's why we expanded our rec center hours, why we created a workforce development program for 12 to 14-year-olds, and why we have more young people working in the city than we ever have had. So it's not just about a one-size-fits-all. It has to be part of a three-pronged strategy. Prevention, intervention, and suppression. We have to prevent crime before it happens. And one of the best ways to prevent crime is to make sure that people have access to jobs and opportunity. We want Rochester to be a hope-filled city with an exciting future, and that means making sure that they have access to good jobs. That's why we have our ReJob program, where people can learn about jobs in the environmental field, get hired in this job. And this is geared towards people who might have had a rough start in life. But we also, let me be clear, that we also have to have a zero tolerance for people who wreak havoc in the community, and we have to remove them and give them give them a timeout. But it is not a one size fits all, because you can't arrest your way out of the challenges that have been building in a city for 60 years. It's important for people to know that Rochester was left out, left behind, and forgotten about.
Time.
And we have the opportunity to continue a trajectory to make sure that we not only invest in our residents to make sure that they have opportunity, but at the same time make sure that we also have are filling the ranks of our police force through innovative ways to make sure that we are recruiting.
Mary Lupien.
Yes. While the mayor takes credit for a national downtick in crime and violence, our community still does not feel safe. And, you know, we hear that we got to hire more cops, but the truth is there aren't any more cops to hire. We're in a retention and recruitment crisis. So we need to focus on the things that we can control. A recent survey or a recent study showed that in looking at all of the 911 calls that came in, only 18% of them really needed a police response. And so scaling up our community responders to meet the need. We already have our person in crisis team. We're working on this action team, but we need to respond to all of the different call types that don't need a police response, to take the burden. We've put too much on their plate for too long. They don't want to be going to these calls, and they're not trained to be going to these calls. I'm on a national commission for community responders because of my work with the person in crisis team. And police chiefs and sheriffs are saying, stop sending us to these calls. It's not the high end of our skill sets. We need support. Community responder teams provide that support so that police aren't going to things like a kid not wanting to go to school or waiting around for a tow truck, things that are just a waste of their time. And yes, we need to be investing much more in our youth. In 22 to 23, Rochester saw a 350% increase in car thefts, mostly youth. But cities like St. Paul, that the same period went down by 40%, what they do differently is heavily invest in their youth. No 11-year-old should be stealing a car. You need to figure out what's going on in their lives. And I know many of these young people, and it's horrific the things that they are dealing with. And they are acting out, they are crying for help, and we need to show up with that help. So we need, what St. Paul did was fund youth sports and after-school programs and give free rides to school and to mental health appointments. And they had a youth intervention task force that even looked proactively at kids who would likely go down that path and figured out how to support them and their families. We have to also support their families. This is the soil that these kids are growing in. And the most common situation in the juvenile detention center is that the parents are working 2 and 3 jobs and aren't home to supervise. So that's why the Guaranteed Basic Income program can provide a little bit of extra support. And studies show that Guaranteed Basic Income reduces hours worked, not because they don't value work, but because they can make employment decisions that are right for their family.
Everyone's got their hands up. Mr. Sinha first.
Yeah. 13, 14, 15-year-old kids getting into crime. This is not normal. This is core of the problem. I mean, education, nobody wants to talk about it and say that, yeah, education is not mayor's responsibility. You can't just wash your hands off. What is a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid getting into this crime business with guns? Not acceptable. And we have to look into RCSD and why those kids are not in school. And Mayor talks about a lot of programs and throws out a lot of numbers, but Mayor was on RCSD board for, more than a decade? Then he was on council for 4 years, and now almost 4 years as mayor. I mean, all of these things are happening. I mean, you've been in 3 different positions. I would say 3 strikes and you're out. We got to change things.
Mr. Evans.
Hey, this is baseball season. We got a Red Wings game on the 31st. I hope you come. I would just say, look, first off, they're not those kids. They're our kids. And, you know, I want to be clear because I promised some young people that I would say this because they said, these people keep saying those kids and those people, those kids. They're our kids. And by the way, the vast majority of our young people are doing the right thing in this community. You don't see it on the news. You don't hear it on a regular basis. And if you've never been to a Rochester City school, or you might have just heard about the Rochester City School District because you just started running, visit some of these schools and you will see that the vast majority of our kids are doing the right thing. There are some that are wayward and doing the wrong thing. But I can tell you that myself and the council member, we know and we've seen kids that are on the right track and doing the right thing. So I just wanted to put that out there. I asked for a list of, roughly how many kids are involved in bad behavior, and it's probably 100. Now it has a major outsized influence on our community, and we need to wrap our arms around them and deal with those young people and get them into positive opportunities. It's why we've expanded job opportunities, expanded library hours, expanded our centers. But I think it's important as a community to be careful about how we talk about our kids, because my kids are those two kids. First off, they're our kids, and the vast majority of them are doing the right thing, and we need to make sure that we give them opportunity. Some of these kids are on the verge. They're on the verge. They could be on the verge of success, or they could be on the verge of failure. But with the right interventions, they could definitely be on the verge of success. So I just want to give a shout out to the young people out there that I know, I got a bunch of them watching, that we see you, and we know that not all of you are Kia boys, not all of you are toting guns. And I think that that's important for leaders to be able to say, because I was one of those kids.
Ms. Lupien.
As the only parent of a child in the RCSD and a teacher in the RCSD, I most certainly am not washing my hands of it. In fact, they are why I'm running. Because of the stories that I hear and the pain that I see in their faces every day, I could not continue to look them in the eye and say I didn't do everything that I could to make things better for them. They are in crisis, and we need much more than we are giving. There are youth programs that in the same time period that I described, where all of those cars were getting stolen, the GRASA, the Greater Rochester Area, or the Greater Rochester After School and Summer Alliance, had many youth programs that were not funded. And the price tag for all of them was only $750,000. But I could not move my colleagues or the mayor to come up with that money for that summer. No after-school program, no youth sports program should go unfunded. These kids do need something to do. They need positive adult interactions, and they need purpose and connection and community. And I do want to acknowledge the impact on the victims in this community. The pain is spilling over, and it's hurting all of us. But what they did in St. Paul, again, was they had, for first-time offenders, they had a restorative justice program, which victims actually prefer, because when you put a kid in juvie, the harm isn't repaired. And when you see the kid get it, because their brains aren't fully formed, these are babies. They don't really understand the impact that they're having. They're just having fun, which is not how you have fun. But they're meeting their needs in the only way that they know how. And so giving them that chance to restore and even earn the money to pay back the insurance premium, that's actually how we could be doing it. And then for repeat offenders, yes, they need some consequences.
All right, we got it. We're getting tight on time. Mr. Sinha's got his hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. These are kids. We need to take care of them. And when they get in the wrong path, we need to help them. Yes, they are our future. But we talk a lot, but we are not doing much. Think about families who are struggling. These kids have nowhere to go in summer. After school programs, a lot of them don't have it. So we need to work with RCSD in figuring out that $1.1 billion, how do we divert some of that money, making sure that is going towards kids and their education, and after-school programs, and summer program as well. I believe $1.1 billion is a lot of money, and we can do all of this. So yes, they are our future, and we need to take care of them. But people here talk a lot, but nothing seems to change.
Mr. Evans, briefly, if you want to take a minute, do you think the city is spending money on programs sufficiently to provide opportunities for kids?
I think we are, and I think if you look at where we were as to where we are now, I think we are. If you remember, we didn't have, if you would have told me 20 years ago that we'd have social workers in our centers, I would have told you we'd never do that, but now we do. If you would have told me that we would expand our job training programs to 12 to 14-year-olds, I would have said, man, that's a good idea. How are we going to do it? But we did it. If you said we were going to expand our Summer of Opportunity program, we did that. But we could always absolutely have more, and that's why collaboration is so very, very important to make sure that we scale this. I always say that any young person that wants to get a job should be able to get a job. Any young person that wants to be in a program should be able to be in a program, and that's why we've expanded our hours at our centers. It's why we have our nights outs at our sports complex. So all these things are absolutely critical in terms of making sure that we do what we can from the city perspective.
That's time.
But there's also the larger community perspective that also plays a role. And then when you have all of us firing on the same cylinder, that's how you get the scale, and that's how you get the maximum impact.
All right, and down to the last minute, Ms. Lupien, one of your themes tonight has been you think you can reimagine the budget and find the space to fund more?
Yes. Yes, we have to find within our budget more, right? Kids in Brighton aren't stealing cars because kids in Brighton have what they need. If kids are still stealing cars and shooting at each other, it's because they don't have what we need and we're not doing enough. There are other programs that can bring in revenue like public banking that we can explore, and asking our state and federal partners for money for different purposes. But it's absolutely my priority, and I guarantee that I will figure it out.
We are going to now approach closing statements. Each candidate has 90 seconds to deliver a closing statement. The order was determined by a card draw before the broadcast began. We're going to stick to 90 seconds. Gino Finelli's been deputized to go remove microphones after 90 seconds. We're going to do our best here. Malik Evans is up first.
Let me just say thank you to the debate and to my colleagues up here. It's been enjoyable getting the opportunity to talk to Rochester. But I believe that our future is greater than our past. I came in with immense challenges, but we did not shrink from them. We know that there are folks that will constantly identify a problem and not work to solve them. But over the last 3.5 years, we worked to solve those problems through innovation, through creativity, but more importantly, with collaboration with the community working with me side by side. And that is the way I believe that we will be able to take Rochester to the next level, by continuing on a trajectory of understanding that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish if we work separately. We won't be able to accomplish much, but if we work collectively, we will be able to accomplish a lot. And I think that we've showed that over those last 4 years. I opened my statement by saying, when I gave my opening statements, that we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go. And as I look back, as I said, we're not where we want to be, but thank God we are not where we were. But I know that by working together as a community, we can continue on a trajectory to make Rochester the best city in the country. And I hope that you will do that with me. And that's why I'm asking for your support on June 24th. And I hope that you will also visit my website, malikevans.org. Thank you and have a good night.
And now Mary Lupien.
Yes, thank you. This has been a really wonderful conversation. This is what democracy looks like. A conversation with the community about how we can improve the lives of our residents. I'm not running just to manage the city. I'm running to offer a plan to transform it. Business as usual is not working. We need urgency, bold action, and a vision for where we're going. We need leaders with the courage to stand up, not just to those who've long held power in Rochester, but also to the fascists and in the White House. I have worked in our neighborhoods, stood with our community, served in our schools, and fought in City Hall to make sure that people were housed and felt safe. I've done the work and I'm ready to do more. Our people need support and a leader who believes in us enough to invest in us, in our people, in our neighborhoods, and in our future. As mayor, I will provide that support. I will expand guaranteed income to support more families, increase housing affordable to us, and scale up our community responder programs to help the police focus and give our community the right response at the right time. I bring the experience, moral clarity, and relentless courage to run this city, and we need real safety, real solutions, real belonging. I know that Rochester has everything we need. We just need to invest in us.
And now Shashi Sinha.
Thank you for this discussion. I'm not a politician, and by now probably have figured it out. I'm very different. My approach is different, and what I'm proposing is much different than what we have seen in the last so many years. We have been stuck in this place for so many years. I said, city needs to get out of this. I'm here to bring that change. What you're going to get with me is no fluff, straight talk, and I'll be always available. I'm looking to build partnership with people. So this is what I'm going to do. And I'll tell you one more thing. If you think city is doing great, probably I'm not your guy. But if you think and believe, if you walk around the city, you'll find out that a lot of people are struggling. Look at me. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut the crime down. I'm going to build 4,000 houses for ownership. I'm going to bring the taxes down. I'm going to grow jobs. I'm going to focus on education. I'm going to do all of those things. And mark my words, I'm going to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. Change is coming.
That concludes tonight's Voice of the Voter debate with the candidates on the ballot in the Democratic primary for Rochester Mayor. Thank you to the candidates for taking part, and to those of you who submitted questions, and to, of course, our panel of journalists, Kiara Weaver of the Democrat and Chronicle, Gino Finelli of WXXI News, Matt Malloy of 13 WHAM News, and Cheryl McKeever of WDKX. A reminder that early voting runs June 14th through the 22nd of June. The primary election day is June 24th. All the information you need is available to find out where to vote and when at the Monroe County Board of Elections website. It's at monroecounty.gov/elections. I'm Evan Dawson for WXXI News. Thanks for watching. Good night.